Hello and welcome. You're watching UATV News with me, Ksenia Buhai. First, at this hour, we have the latest developments from Ukraine. There is no threat of cancelling of the visa-free travels for Ukrainians. After the decisions of the National Security and Defense Council, the question of temporary ceasing of the visa-free regime with the EU was removed from the agenda. Meanwhile, the decision of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine caused an international response. More details in the following report.
Uninterrupted work of the state registers of the National Anti-Corruption Agency of Ukraine has been resumed. The work of all anti-corruption bodies will continue in Ukraine. The position on the fight against corruption is fundamental for the President of Ukraine. This is how the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, commented on the scandalous decision of the Constitutional Court at a meeting with the ambassadors of the G7 countries. The reality is that the President's team, the President and government agencies continue fighting corruption and those behind all these processes in Ukraine. 3 days ago, the Constitutional Court ruled that certain provisions of anti-corruption legislation were unconstitutional. Thus, the National Agency for the Prevention of Corruption was deprived of the authority to check the declarations of officials. Following the decision of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, National Agency on Corruption Prevention closed the register of electronic declarations. Thus, the appointment of state officials, including winners of local elections, was blocked. In turn, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau was also forced to close 110 criminal proceedings. The presidential representative petitioned the judges of the Constitutional Court not to question the legitimacy of this decision and step back from the case. But the Constitutional Court, despite the obvious fact of a conflict of interest, refused to satisfy this request. The judges themselves should be held accountable under these articles of the Criminal Code. They made a decision in their own interests. In response to this decision, Volodymyr Zelensky convened an emergency meeting of the National Security Council the day before and asked law enforcement officers to settle the situation. In addition, the president submitted to the Verkhovna Rada a bill that provides for the deprivation of powers of judges of the Constitutional Court. The document has already been registered on the parliament's website. I don't know who is behind this. I'm not sure that all the judges of Constitutional Court themselves indeed decided to do what they did yesterday. Or rather did. We need to take quick but adequate steps. Quick steps. This is from the point of view of the cabinet meeting. I think the National Agency on Corruption Prevention of Ukraine will support us. Everything is clean. And at the legislative level, I'm sure I'm ready and I think it's fair. We are to register the urgent bill in the Verkhovna Rada, which provides for the restoration of the integrity of the constitutional judiciary in Ukraine. Several hundred activists demanded to cancel the scandalous decision of the Constitutional Court and to dismiss the judges. From the very morning, the protesters blocked the entrance to the building of the Constitutional Court, blocked the street, shouted slogans, set fires and threw firecrackers. Meanwhile, one of the judges of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine has already filed for retirement. The head of the court, Alexander Tupitsky, was summoned for interrogation at the State Bureau of Investigations. Criminal proceedings were also opened against him under the article treason. Reported by Vadim Kromer, UATV News.
2 more anti-records related to COVID-19 recorded over the past day in Ukraine. 8,312 newly revealed cases and 173 persons dead because of the disease. 741 infected were registered in Kiev. Ukraine's health minister states that the disease rapidly spreads throughout Europe and notes effectiveness of the adaptive quarantine.
You can see that the number of infected grows rapidly in all European countries with no exception. In our opinion, the chosen strategy of an adaptive quarantine, when we are gradually introducing the limitations in the regions, depending on the situation, is absolutely right. And I want to reiterate once more, taking into consideration different factors, including the economic indexes in Ukraine, we have to avoid the complete lockdown by all means.
Up next, if someone touches a soldier, he must leave at least without hands. This is how Alexander Lukashenko threatened the protesters in Belarus. He believes the protesters cross the red lines. Students who participate in rallies are expelled from universities. Employees of enterprises are fired, but the pressure on Belarusians does not end there. Now they cannot return home from neighboring countries. Alexander Lukashenko closed the borders. Details next.
In Minsk, people gathered near universities to support students and teachers who are expelled and fired for participating in peaceful protests. The heads of 10 Minsk universities are following Alexander Lukashenko's order to throw out all those who dare to disagree with his policy. I came to support them because they are great. When we were starting, we could not have created such a large-scale protest. Right now, they go for each other. We want to show them support. They are not alone. We all want the best for our country. University employees demand to reinstate the expelled students. 60 teachers of the Academy of Arts signed on an open letter. They call for resolving the political crisis not through repression but through negotiations. Alexander Lukashenko is not ready for a dialogue. His statements are getting tougher day by day. They are more and more like ultimatums to the enemy, not appeals to compatriots. Those who today go to the railway, those who hang fascist flags on power lines, in a word, those who are now trying to destroy and destabilize the infrastructure of the state has to know. From today, especially in the apartments of citizens where they hide, we do not take anyone prisoner. Belarusians do not betray themselves. Their protests remain entirely peaceful. More and more workers from Belarusian factories are joining the national strike. Plant management threatens to fire them. I am tired of injustice, of lawlessness that has taken place in our country. I cannot stay on the sidelines any longer. I cannot continue my work knowing that this regime and all illegal actions are paid by my taxes. A day earlier, Alexander Lukashenko, whose legitimacy on the post of president of Belarus is not recognized by Kyiv and Brussels, ordered the closure of the borders with Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. Only entry-exit checkpoints with Russia remain open. Reported by Vadim Kramer, Roman Smolar, UATV News.
Holodomor, Mosaics of History, a new project by National Holodomor-Genocide Museum. Members of the expedition, organized by the museum, recorded 120 unknown stories about the Great Famine. They talked to witnesses of the genocide of Ukrainians, survivors that remember the calamity of 1932-1933. Testimonies now can be found on the museum's website. Museum historians also interviewed 50 specialists on local history and discovered 66 places that appear to be the mass grave of the victims of genocide.
Those who were responsible for searches, they used sticks to pit the ground and dug out that wheat. Even if it was partially sprouted or wet, they put it to the sacks and took away to the district center.
Hundreds and thousands of people went to Kyiv for the sake of survival, but unfortunately many of them died right on the streets. And witnesses of the man-made famine remember that, and the very same torg since. The hard currency stores where the villagers could bargain their gold or jewels in exchange for the food. The same food that was seized from their homes.
An inclusive swing was installed in the Vinnytsia region. Now, children with disabilities can, on an equal basis with their peers, relax on the playground in the city center.
All kids should enjoy their childhood. An unusual swing was installed on the playground in the center of Zhmerynka town in the Vinnytsia region. Special ramp makes it for a wheelchair possible to enter this pallet.
It is designed in accordance with the width and length of the wheelchair. We will talk to parents about whether there is a necessity to set additional wear retainers.
At present, this swing is the only one in the city. For now, they are being tested by specialists.
We will listen to all comments from parents. What fits, what does not fit, what needs to be changed. In the future, we plan to install such swings in other city districts where there are children's playgrounds.
166 children with disabilities live in Zhmerynka. 17 of them use wheelchairs. Local residents made a petition to install special swings in the city. As a result, the authorities set up an inclusive infrastructure at the playground.
We know where those children live. We are going to develop the so-called interactive map, marking places where not only children, but also adults with disabilities live.
Local residents also like this idea.
All children living in Zhmerynka are equal for us.
Once the quarantine restrictions in the city are eased, all children with disabilities are welcome to visit this playground. Reported by Vinnytsia, UATV News.
Saving the red book species, the female badger in a grave condition was found by farmers in Odesa region. The vets performed a complicated surgery, and after months of treatment, Ileana, as they call her, is doing pretty well, regularly undergoing massage therapy and having a 24/7 care. Our journalists know the details.
The female badger has been found 120 kilometers away from Odesa. The animal was stuck in the irrigation system. A local farmer found her and started a real rescue operation. However, the animal appeared to be unable to move its hind feet. Veterinarian Vitaly got to know about the situation from social networks and couldn't remain indifferent. At first I went to the place it was found and did a neurological examination. Fortunately, there was a chance to save it, though a very slight one. I could not waste this chance. Here in Odesa, we did a magnetic resonance imaging and revealed a broken spine. The animal got a name Ileana. She underwent a complicated yet unique surgery. The vets installed her a spine stabilizer. Now the animal is doing pretty well and can already move its paws. Every day the badger gets a healing massage. After Ileana's rehabilitation is over, she would be sent to the Tuzlovsky Limany National Park. There the keepers will dig a hole for her. After the adaptation period ends, the animal would be released into the wild.
Now she contacts us. At first she was afraid, hissed at us. The badgers hiss in a very strange way. And by the way, they are very aggressive animals. Yet we used to start with 1-minute massage sessions, then 2 minutes. All in all, she got used to us. And now, when we are entering the cage, she's not afraid and remains calm.
A badger is a rare animal for Odesa region. It is included into the Red Book of Ukraine and is considered to be an endangered species here. However, it is widely spread in other countries. Reported by Vinnytsia, UATV News.
That was our final story this hour. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter pages.